On January 3rd, the world stopped to watch the arrest of Nicolas Maduro. Every news channel, YouTube channel, everywhere, we were seeing news, talking and screaming about oil, dictatorship, and politics. But most of these folks missed the real story. There's a rumor suggesting that Venezuela was sitting on a shadow reserve of 660,000 Bitcoin. That is nearly $60 billion in Bitcoin. If the US now controls Caracas, who controls those private keys? Was it Maduro? Was it someone else? Who knows? And while you were distracted by ExxonMobil stocks pumping, the US government might just have made one of the biggest crypto acquisitions in history for free. And the market? Well, the market seems to know. That's why we didn't see a Bitcoin crash. Usually when there's wars or tension, like we saw with Israel and Hamas, like we saw with Ukraine, Russia, but this crash did not happen. So welcome to 2026, the year where the casino is now closed and the new owners just moved in. But let's look at the facts. The first week of 2026 was far from being boring. We started with a raid. Now Maduro is sitting in a prison cell in Brooklyn. The mainstream media started looking at old money, so oil reserves, gold reserves, everything that is available in Venezuela. They talked about Chevron, ExxonMobil, because these stocks jumped 6%, and now the US can finally tap into these Venezuelan reserves. These news of war, conflicts for the normal retailer was a clear sign of instability, and most likely in this geopolitical chaos, they thought it was time to sell their assets, especially risky assets and volatile assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies. But if you sold on the news, you got left behind, because while these headlines were talking about oil, the smart money was looking at something completely different. Look at Bitcoin. On the news of the raid, there was almost no dip. It was a flinch. And then we reclaimed the $90,000 and immediately surged to 94,000. Why would a risky asset like Bitcoin ignore a government collapse? And a lot of people are thinking it is because of the shadow reserve theory. Think about it. If that rumor of 600,000 seized Bitcoin is true, it means the supply will not hit the market. It will move from a rogue nation to a strategic reserve. That removes that massive sell pressure that could have been otherwise. And institutions know it. The spot ETF's inflows were massive in the first days of January. They're not scared of the chaos, they're buying the chaos. And now it's trickling down. While Bitcoin holds the line, we're seeing other assets doing a little bit of a tiny mini alt season. For example, XRP, Solana, and Ethereum, they're kind of waking up. But do not get it twisted, this is not an alt season. This is just maybe a retail party. Maybe this is institutions positioning themselves before the public realizes that the game has changed. This brings us to the thesis of 2026. Now that the experiment is over, we no longer have all that shadow or that anonymity behind crypto. Things are changing. Just look at DeFi. The total value lock is recovering towards the 2025 peaks. Aave, after everything that happened, is holding $34 billion. Now this is like a new financial plumbing being installed in the global systems. The volatility that we see now is no longer fear-induced, but it's because of repricing. The market is realizing that crypto is no longer a hedge against inflation, and it is becoming the standard for sovereign wealth and global settlement. The capture of Maduro was the signal. The Wild West days of crypto most likely are gone. The governments and corporations are now the biggest whales that we have in Bitcoin and in crypto as a whole. Listen, I spent hours looking at these charts, and the thing that scares me is how quiet this panic was. Usually crypto Twitter is all over the place, is on fire during every event, especially if it is geopolitical. But this time, almost silence. Now, before we jump to the charts, let me know if you think this shadow reserve is real by hitting the like button. I want to see how many of you think the US government is actually holding these bags. But now, let's take a look at some charts. Starting with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, as I said, it was stuck in this 90,000 right here. You can see that the Bollinger was even very, very funneled up. And then all of a sudden we broke above that. And now we're close to 94,000. We actually touched 94,000 yesterday. And now we're a little bit below that. But still, we're in a very good position above the $93,000. So my belief is that we locked in the bottom right here. If you remember me talking about the weekly, this gap usually when it gets this big tends to be closed or to be shortened to tighten the gap. And this seems to have happened in the daily chart. If we look at the daily chart, we had this cross below, but now it seems that we're going to go back up. And on the weekly, it looks like this got a little bit tighter right here. And now the 200 moving average is starting to peak towards the upside once again. So we have to keep an eye to see if it's not going to be something like this, where it seems like we're picking it up, but then the rest of 2026 will be going down. We don't know. We have to wait and see for more information on the weekly, but on the daily, it seems like in a couple of weeks, we should be testing this death cross once again, maybe to cross the blue line going back upwards, and then it is a very bullish momentum. Same thing on also Solana. So all of these are doing similar patterns, very tight Bollinger Bands, which means an explosion towards one side is about to happen. And for Ethereum, Solana, and Bitcoin, also XRP, it seems that the case it is upwards, at least for the short time. We're almost entering the 70s here in the RSI for Ethereum, same thing for Solana, and also for Bitcoin, 65 right here. And above that, we're getting into the overbought zone. Of course, on the daily, it is not one of the best indicators to just go based off the RSI. Me, Everton, I personally rather use RSI in lower time frames or very, very high time frames like the weekly. The daily, there's just a little bit of a noise. I think you get kind of freaked out if you just look at these indicators by themselves on the daily, but it shows a pattern that there's a lot of people trying to get in right now. And you can see that because the fear and greed index went from a fearful state, extreme fear last week, to now almost out of the fear zone. You can see we're almost out. We were 26 yesterday and 25 the day before. And now we're all of a sudden at 44. So we are almost double the value that we were just yesterday. So that is kind of scary to see. There's movements happening so fast, and the speed at which this indicator changes, the crypto fear and greed, the RSI, all these indicators, is not good. You would like to see them slowly creeping in because it means that it's going to be steady. If it goes up so fast, maybe it's not going to be going up for a longer period of time. We're seeing that attention span of TikTok users applied to the market. One day people are very scared, the other day people are very greedy. It goes up and down like crazy. This brings up volatility, but it also hurts the underlying asset as a whole because it's going to have so much volatility. It's going to be more of a speculative asset more than like a value holder, which is the case for Bitcoin. Now talking about Bitopics, if you were on the copy trading, the copy trading is doing fantastic. The 0DTE actually did fantastic in December, closing at 515. Was not so good for the alt 0DTE, which is the brand new champion, still beating the 0DTE, but we closed December with 3.72. I thought that we're closing towards the 8, maybe 9%. But we had some not so good trades because of all that volatility, all that price movement going up and down like crazy. But so far, so good. We are at already almost 1% here in the month of January, and we have the whole month to go. And the way that we're looking right now, the market seems to be steady towards the upside. So Bitcoin going towards the $100,000, we can make a very good trade right here and maybe go towards the 10% on this month as well. So we're closing in on 7 million in assets under management here, which is fantastic. And if you want to check it out, this is a copy trading strategy, but if you want to trade yourself, you can go right here and you can trade Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and gold options. All of these are USD settled. So these are cash settled. You don't need to hold the underlying asset. You just need to hold stablecoins, USDT or USDC, which makes it safe for you if you don't want to have exposure to the underlying asset, just to the volatility that it has, which is what I do personally. And if you remember, I made a video 2 or 3 videos ago where I closed the month of December with 17% ROI, even though the month was negative and the year over year for Bitcoin was negative as well. So I had a fantastic year, especially after October, when October I lost a lot of money, but November, December was fairly good for me. And I'm hopeful that this year is going to be fantastic as well. But if you don't know how to trade and you want to make it simplified, maybe almost like prediction market does, you can go right here on the options cards. And this is visually easier to understand because it pretty much looks like a predictions market. If you believe by day, whatever, so let's say January 30, if you believe that by January 30, Solana or Bitcoin will be below 100,000 or below 150, you can just open this position right here. And if you're right, you're going to be making 16%. And if you're wrong, you just lose the amount that you deposited. So overall, very straightforward, very simple for you to do. And these are super easy to understand and for you to open. So you just click right here. You can see the payoff curve right here, all the information regarding this position, and you just enter the amount of money that you want. This is the simplified version on how to open spreads, how to open advanced strategies here on Bitopics in a simple way. And if you want to learn how to trade options by yourself instead of using the easy cards or the copy trading, you click on education, and here we're going to have a course for you to watch. This course now is available in English and in German, dubbed in German. So just click on education. You just need to have an account, no deposits needed. You're able to watch right here the course for free from zero to hero. You're going to learn how to trade options like a pro. That being said, let's have a fantastic year. We're starting strong, so maybe we're going to have a good momentum for the whole year. That being said, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you had an amazing holiday with your family, with your loved ones. Now we're ready to conquer this year together. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you soon on Friday. Take care. Peace.